years that undertake the NAPLAN testing, do we have the right infrastructure to support 30 students sitting in a classroom, all connecting to the same set of resources at the same time? So I'm going to take you through some of the solutions that we put together to help schools around this particular initiative, and to ensure that their infrastructure was ready to support the transition to testing online. Now, from an evolution perspective, this is where we started to see digital services being embedded into the learning. So there was a transition or a pivot to things like G Suite, Office 365. Parents were given full visibility into the child's learning journey. So being able to see what projects they're working on, when their work was due, have a look at some of the work that they submitted. So there was a lot more sharing and collaboration between the schools and the parents. And it's during this particular period that the focus really shifted from just providing connectivity to how do we look at continuous innovation. So what can we do better? What services, what capabilities are out there that are available to education that would help either improve the engagement, improve the attendance, or improve the delivery of educational services. And for the most part, last year, the majority of schools in the public sector probably sat between these two, having that device equity and just basic parent portal to really embedding digital learning into their teaching. Today, okay, these schools have been forced to pivot to 100% online, and that, of course, is in response to the COVID-19. So remote learning has really become something of a priority. How to effectively engage students when they're not in the classroom, they're at home. And digital equity also became paramount, because you may not be aware, but in Australia, the availability of broadband and internet access is not as equitable as you might think. So now schools and also departments are working with telcos. So as an example, the New South Wales Department of Education partnered with Telstra, who is our primary telco, and for those students who didn't have fixed broadband services into the home, maybe there was one phone and that was it, they were actually loaned a laptop with a 3G dongle to ensure that they were ready and had the infrastructure to be able to participate in online learning. Because the last thing that we wanted to do was leave students behind because they didn't have the infrastructure at home to be able to join their peers on their Google Classrooms or Office 365. So the final step in this entire journey, and this is a project that we're starting to work on with the department now, and that is really looking at data-driven insights. So if we think about it, even looking at today's numbers with 60,000 access points and 10,000 switches, there's a lot of telemetry that is available for them to consume. So what they're planning at the moment is taking in all of these data feeds, and we're working with them to essentially build a data lake of network infrastructure, okay, and expose access to that information via APIs. So that would then allow them to extract some of the location and device information and potentially student ID, and correlate that with school attendance, with reporting, or how the student's overall learning trajectory, and then use that data to detect trends that where they need to step up and potentially interject and help that student re-engage with learning. So there's a lot of opportunity around data-driven insights to support or further the development of education in both K-12 and also in universities. And I know in Australia a number of universities have sort of started down this path. And I'd be interested to hear from yourselves if this is something that you're looking at as well. So once we had, so this is sort of their journey mapped out. So how did Aruba participate other than from an infrastructure perspective? It was really around training and enablement. So the New South Wales team is very small. There's about 6 who look after the entire school network. And they then have what they're termed local IT teams or resources that would then look after a subset of schools. So they run on a very skeletal team. So being able to help them realise operational efficiencies, so being able to support zero-touch provisioning during their rollouts, give them insights into when there are potential issues happening on the network so they can be proactive about addressing those before they become service impacting. Work with them around smooth brownfields migration. Now that could be an upgrade or it could be an actual infrastructure replacement. So they may have had vendor X and are transitioning to Aruba. Being able to smooth out that migration for them and help them with standardization. So, and I'm going to talk through some of the solutions that we are working on with the department to achieve some of these objectives. But the ability to have a cookie cutter, very basic configuration that is applied across the entire infrastructure, and then through policy and automation be able to cater for any bespoke requirements or one-offs or something that needs to be considered just a little bit differently from the rest. And of course, being able to future-proof the network. So the investment that the department are making is really very much forward-looking. They have a number of IoT projects. They fully appreciate that there are these devices coming into their network. Sometimes they are fully supported and they have all of the necessary configuration processes around how to deploy them. Other times it would be a school that has seen an object or a widget and they want to connect that in because it delivers a learning experience that other applications can't. So being able to future-proof their network to be able to support things like Zigbee devices, BLE devices, and any number of Ethernet or IP-based IoT platforms as well. And of course, demonstrate value. And to do that, it's really all about retaining and building on the partnership that we have with the department. So just having a look at some of these solutions that we're working on with the department and the reason sort of why they have chosen this particular path. So moving forward, they're looking at Wi-Fi 6. So 802.11ax, and there are a number of reasons for that. First of all, from a future-proofing perspective, as I mentioned, being able to support other non-IT specific IoT devices, such as those that are connecting via Bluetooth or Zigbee, and also looking at, okay, how do we manage applications, because a lot of the applications, as we've spoken about, have transitioned to cloud, and also supporting distributed deployments. So it's not just one big campus. These are 2,200 campuses, essentially. So being able to support highly distributed deployments. And then, of course, we have the requirements around application prioritization as well. From a back-end infrastructure, just making sure that there is enough power capacity to be able to scale from 1 to 2.5 gig to 5 gig and meet the variant power demands as well. Now, I did speak about this concept of a data lake, and due to their scale, there is an absolute need for the department to transition to cloud. So being able to consolidate all of the telemetry that's coming in from around their networks, all of their devices, but also give them that centralized control so they can take that cookie cutter config and then deploy it across 60,000 access points. They can offer the schools the ability to see how their school is performing. They can give the schools some limited amount of control over their own domain while still ensuring that the core constructs remain the same and are managed by the department. So as you can see here from a management perspective, supporting Aruba's access points, switches and gateways, and from a services perspective, the one that they're very much focused on at the moment is around the network analytics. So because this is a cloud-based application, we have the capability to be able to run some analytics in the background and then present those back to the customers. So being able to show if there are excessive access points that are rebooting across the network, be able to demonstrate if there's some increased latency in IP addresses being served, being able to also bubble up any .1x authentication failures. Are they happening on a continuous basis? Are they specific to one particular site? Yeah. And also, of course, around the zero-touch provisioning, being able to have a teacher connect the network together, so plug the access point into the switch, plug the switch into the router, and then have the network come online automatically. It offers them extensive cost savings. So the other one, we're in the middle of a pilot, and this is really around the IoT conversation. So being able to give schools a flexibility to adopt the IoT devices that they need while also maintaining a standardized config and also ensuring that the appropriate policies are applied appears to be at odds with each other. Using the concept of what we term colorless ports, when a device connects into the switch, it is profiled, it is recognized, and then a config is then pushed down to that particular device, depending on what it is. And that would then determine what access that device has to resources around the network. The other value to this is that if I take a device and I plug it into port 1, that config appears automatically. I then unplug that device and I plug it into port 7. Again, the config is changed to support that policy. So using the concept of policies, we're able to standardize on the configurations. We are also able to simplify the configurations, but we're giving the schools and the network the flexibility to onboard a various number of devices without IT's intervention, but IT have full visibility into what devices are connected. So this addressed one of the department's key pain points in regards to that trade-off of, okay, allowing the schools to onboard and use whatever devices they want versus the time that it takes IT to make the changes, go through the risk management, ensure the security policies are in place, etc., etc. And then if the school moves that device, have to go through that whole process again. So it's a combination of security plus flexibility. The other key element that the department leveraged from us is around the ability to understand if there are any potential issues on the network from an application perspective. And there are two key use cases here. So the first one was looking at, okay, we have a school that's 1,200 kilometres away from the CBD. Sending resources there to troubleshoot takes over a day. So having something that is sitting on that network and doing continuous 24 7x7 testing of applications, connectivity, and then reporting those back to a centralised dashboard, like you see here, adds a lot of value and also provides real cost savings, because if there is an issue that is captured in the dashboard, it can be Wireshark packet captures can be obtained, and it can be analysed in a lot of depth to be able to understand what the root cause is it something that is configuration based? If so, then it's easy enough to change. Do we need device instead of infrastructure RMA'd or place a TAC call to have it addressed? And the solution is very, very simple. It comprises of a sensor. So this sensor acts like a mobile phone. Okay, it connects to the network, connects to anyone's network, it authenticates, and then it sits there and starts testing. And it tests internal applications, network services, connectivity via Ethernet and or Wi-Fi to determine if there is a failure, where did that failure occur. So that was one use case for this particular solution. The second use case was around before and after testing. So as you can appreciate, some of those schools have satellite connections because we can't get fibre or broadband out to them. With some recent initiatives that have been undertaken by the Australian government, we are able to convert some of those schools from satellite to other services. So it's last mile Wi-Fi. And this solution is ideal in measuring, okay, well, what was the performance of the SaaS applications, the applications sitting in the data centre before the changes were made versus after the changes were made. So it provides that, it provides us with quantifiable data on the impact of changes that are made to the network, whether that be positive or negative, rather than what we tend to hear working in IT is that, oh, the network seems slow, or this application is slowed down, or the Wi-Fi is broken, etc. The other aspect around performance assurance is from the infrastructure side. And as I said, the ability to extract telemetry, so that Aruba central platform, the ability to extract telemetry, run analytics against it, and then present insights around how the network is performing, and also offer what the root cause is and recommendations. So they're two aspects that the department is very interested, which of course leverage their investment and journey around AI and machine learning. So again, you'll recall that at the start of our conversation around the department, one of their objectives was to present the schools, the ministries, the regional leads with updated information on how the schools are performing versus student engagement, etc., etc. And to do that, they need to be able to draw on a number of different data sources. And we're able to provide one of those data sources for them. So just having a look at some of the deployments that have happened. So in addition to the Department of Education, this is a private school, Brisbane Boys College, and they have around 1,500 students and 300 full-time staff. So their objective was really to reduce the burden on their limited IT resources and improve the students' I suppose, digital capacity, and also offer those students in the boarding houses access to resources as if they were at home. They want to be able to connect their Apple TVs, their PlayStations, their Xboxes, etc. So in order to facilitate that, the Brisbane Boys Grammar offered a one-to-one tablet program for their Year 7 to Year 12 students, and also had sets of iPads for their junior school, so that would be their primary school. They transitioned a lot of their learning to OneDrive, using Google Docs and Office 365, and they ensured that, or they wanted that to be an integral part of the curriculum, so that as the students were exiting primary or secondary education and entering the workforce or tertiary, they'd have a solid understanding around how those platforms actually operate. So, and the third, I suppose, objective for them was to provide a very smooth guest check-in experience. So, being a private school, they have a number of functions there. One of the key requirements, of course, is to offer Wi-Fi. So, being able to leverage ClearPass's capabilities to provide secure access to the network by authenticating the users and seamlessly onboarding the boys' devices, but also they were looking at integrating with Sign, which is a visitor management solution, to improve the productivity at their reception. So visitors come in, they do a self-check-in, they are given a username and password, and they start accessing the network. The other one is a slightly larger college, and they have over 3,000 students. They were a Cisco customer, interestingly, and they required a wireless network that was designed to support their best practice e-learning initiatives. They expected over 10,000 devices would be connecting at any one time, and they were also using a range of cloud-based applications to support their learning, and that included their learning management systems as well. So they had a BYOD program, so they weren't doing a one-to-one. It was BYOD. So in order to do that, there needs to be a very streamlined way to onboard those devices, and that is where their adoption of ClearPass really helped streamline that whole process for them. And they're moving forward, they're looking to connect their access control systems also to the wireless network. Again, looking at ways to reduce the number of networks that they have. So rather than having a network for their door and security, being able to incorporate that onto their IT network and then integrate those in order to streamline actually getting into the school, but also to ensure that the school remains very secured. So I'm just going to pause here. I've got a couple of pop quizzes. Jessica, do you want to share how they'll be running?
Yeah. Can you show the question first, Elisa? Okay, so this is the question. The first person who can answer the question correctly in the chat box will be given a gift from our distributor directly to your house. So, boleh Pak, Bapak Ibu boleh dijawab Pak, mungkin di chat box-nya, kira-kira boleh ditebak-tebak jawabannya apa gitu. Nah, nanti kita bakal ada semacam souvenir lah, yang akan dikirimkan langsung ke rumah Bapak dan Ibu. Ntar ada agensi yang akan record, karena ada beberapa pertanyaan juga yang akan diberikan, bukan hanya ini sih. Sama Elisa, there is a question from Pak Charles.
Yeah.
He said, does Aruba support blended learning to reduce infrastructure requirement at the campus? I mean a model that support current situation such as COVID-19, where most of us are at home. Maybe we can discuss it later ya, Elisa ya, in the university section.
Yeah, so some of the initiatives around universities, we do have solutions that support blended learning. They, to my knowledge, the universities here have not pursued them because they have they've transitioned a lot of their learnings to cloud and delivered via SaaS. And I'll talk to some of those as well. But we absolutely have solutions that would allow the universities, if desired, to take their current network. So if you have a university SSID that has certain parameters, you want to take the traffic through specific firewalls, load balancers, web caching, whatever, we have solutions, and they're called remote APs, so RAPs, where we can take the network and extend it to the student's home or extend it to the teacher's home. So where I would probably see more of an uptake in this is extending the university network to the teacher's home, because many of the students are already accessing the university. Well, here in Australia, they already access it remotely. So they jump on to portals, to particular SaaS-based applications, and the learning is delivered that way. But we absolutely have solutions for that. And maybe that's an opportunity for a follow-up conversation, Jessica.
Okay, thank you, Elisa. Pak Charles, ada yang mau ditanyain lagi, Pak?
I've got 2 other questions. So next pop quiz question.
Aruba Central and Cloud Managed Networking from Pak Imam. Elisa, can you check the chat box?
Okay. Aruba, ClearPass and Airwave would be the 2 technically correct software solutions. British School, Jakarta.
British School, Jakarta. Oke. Bu Siti, tolong dicatat ya, Bu. Pemenangnya pertanyaan pertama. Oke.
Okay. Yes. Number D is correct. Thank you. So whoever circled number D on the screen, that is well done. And finally, let's see if I can get to the next screen. Okay. Which of the following is a value of Aruba Central for Education? Yes. Iman, congratulations. That is absolutely correct.
Ya, Bu Siti, tolong dicatat ya, Bu ya. Okay.
Well done, everyone. So I'm going to now pivot to the university, and we'll have a conversation around some of the initiatives that we're undertaking there. So we know that this slide here, connect and protect, is now table stakes. Okay, being able to offer connectivity and security is no different from any other university. We need to go well beyond that, and just getting onto the network seamlessly and knowing you are secure is, as I said, it's entry level. So we need to move to the place where the network informs and engages with the user and with IT. And from an IT's perspective, they really need to be a strategic partnership to drive these long-term improvement plans with the university. So what I have seen from within Australia is that IT are no longer operating unto their own. They are very much engaged with student services. They are very strongly engaged with marketing and in addition, faculty. So their sphere of influence has grown substantially. And the reason for that is that the network is becoming that hub or centerpiece for connectivity well beyond just IP devices and your traditional client-based equipment. So when it comes to universities, Aruba has been privileged, I should say, to have a very long history working within the tertiary education sector. So these are just a few of our college and university customers. The majority of these you see here are within North America. I didn't have time to put up all of the Australian ones, but there are a couple here. James Cook University is one. RMIT is not listed here. Illawarra TAFE is another one. Ballarat Uni. So there are a number of universities that we have been engaging with in Australia as well. And just a couple of stats for you. You may not be aware, but of the 8 Ivy League schools, so they're your Cambridge, Princeton, Yale, 7 of these are Aruba customers. And from a coverage perspective, we're working with over 2,500 universities, and these universities are delivering their learning, their I suppose campus experiences across Aruba's infrastructure. So just when we look at the university sector, there are a number of key trends that have been identified, and this is a little bit US-centric because it came from a survey that was undertaken for a lot of the US universities. But a couple that have come out from Australia as well that the universities are really centred on, and that is the student success. So ensuring that the students are successful, that they have access to the resources that they need in order to complete their learning and also enjoy their time on the campus. Because remembering Australia is a little bit different, is that the education is an export for us. So it is very much centred on how is that student's experience on my campus and at my university. It goes well beyond the type of courses that I can provide. And the area where the universities are seeing or starting to differentiate is around the use of technology and how they are using that as a differentiator in the delivery of education to the students. So a couple of the other ones, data-driven decision making. You saw that within the K-12 education sector with the Department of New South Wales. That is also very much a play in the tertiary education sector, looking at how can I use things like location information, extract that from the network and use that to optimize the delivery of services to students. It could be as simple as how many times do we need to do cleaning of the faculty areas or cleaning of the bathrooms, depending on where students are located and how they're actually interacting with elements of the campus. So when it comes to being able to effectively support students and look at ways to, I suppose, add incremental services and also drive efficiencies, a lot of what the universities are trying to do is really enabled by IoT. And as an example, the majority of Australian universities are involved with pilots and programs using virtual reality and augmented reality. And just to give you sort of a little bit of an insight, one initiative that is underway by, I think it was Monash University, is designed to support a student's learning about the human anatomy. And it enables students to visualize and manipulate anatomical structures, and therefore giving them a much deeper understanding of how the human anatomy is constructed and how it actually operates. RMIT, who's been a long-standing Aruba customer, and I'll be talking to a little bit more detail, they have taken it upon themselves to incorporate augmented reality to aid in vocational education and workplace training. So if you cast your minds back to Pokemon, I'm hoping everyone on the call has heard of or hopefully seen Pokemon, where you have these little creatures that are overlaid into what your phone actually sees. It's that same sort of construct, but it is a way for students to understand how machinery works. So quite complex, think of manufacturing, being able to have them open up virtual panels and make changes and see what the outcomes of that those changes are. So it's really offering students an opportunity to explore and interact with information in new ways. The other, I suppose, key use case around IoT integration is this whole concept of smart campuses. And I'm sure many of you, if you're not already down this path, are very familiar with it. And that is to provide or use location-based information that is contextual and personalised, and to be able to capture that data and draw new insights that can then be applied to improve the students' experience at the campus. So one example is one of the universities that we're just doing some initial work with. They made the decision, they saw how their students were accessing resources and that they were doing this at all hours of the day. So they decided to open up their library 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, unless it's like very specific public holidays. And in doing so, they then optimized the cleaning schedule. So they looked at, okay, well, when is this library being used during outside of standard school hours, and then optimize the cleaning schedule as to have minimal impact on the students who were studying, because the library, like the network, is open 24/7. So again, that's just an example of some of the data insights that they're able to, or the improvements they're able to make from those data insights. And there's also, when it comes to students in particular, and this is absolutely applicable in Australia, is that the availability, the performance of applications and Wi-Fi is one of the key criteria that students use in order to determine which university that they will attend. And this is, as I said, with Australia having such an outbound, I suppose, face on for the education sector, this is absolutely imperative, because the moment that Wi-Fi doesn't work properly, the students don't call the help desk, they tweet it, they Snapchat it, they WeChat it, it goes out onto social media, and that in turn reflects poorly on the university. And that said, we had a briefing with a university who's considering Aruba, and they were sharing with us their plans around their upgrades, and they made the assumption, or they were working out their plans on every student having 3 devices. That is no longer the case. Students on average have between 8 or 9 devices. Now, if they're actually in-house or on-campus students, meaning that they've got accommodation on campus, this is a very accurate number. If they're students that are coming in for a day, it's probably about 3 to 4 devices per student. But when it comes to scaling the infrastructure, you've got 30,000 students. You now need to be able to support 270,000 clients. So that's a massive uplift. So ensuring that the network and the associated infrastructure has the capacity to support this is imperative. So I've just got another little fun fact for you. Who can name the top 3 applications used by students? And I'm only going to keep this open for a couple of minutes. Again, put it in the chat. What do you think are the top 3 applications? This was a poll that we undertook from RMIT. It was. So top 3 applications used by RMIT students, of which there are close to 60,000 of them. So we'll just have a quick look here and see if anyone's got it. Actually, I'll show you the answer, Jessica, and you can see who is the first to come in with the correct answer. So the answer...
Okay, I see the chat.
Yep. TikTok, YouTube, and mail. Top 3 applications used by students at RMIT. So that's sort of that. I mean, that in itself is an insight. So if, as a university, and I'm wanting to appeal to these students, I need to retain them, I want them to be engaged, I want them to be using the facilities on campus, then the top 3 applications that need prioritization to improve the students' experience are TikTok, YouTube, and mail. Not learning systems, not Office 365 or our SaaS-based applications. Yes, they need to work, but TikTok is the priority there. So just, again, the value of insights and how we can make adjustments to the network to incorporate that. So just coming back to something that's a little bit more, I suppose, process or outcomes focused. Some of the experiences or the outcomes that students require, and also the faculty and the chancellors and the universities actually need to address as well. So from the student's perspective, in order to provide the experiences that students expect, it's anytime, anywhere connectivity. So we are still, and I have to say I was a little bit surprised to hear this. I was talking to some of my colleagues. They are still finding universities that have yet to provide ubiquitous, reliable indoor and outdoor coverage for students. As we agreed, we think that that's sort of a mainstay, that's our entry, or that's our starting point. And also being able to ensure that that connectivity is available for both their private lives, so when they're on-prem or in the on-campus housing, and also for their academic life. Home-like experience in the residential halls. So that means that nothing is filtered. Everything is open, and they can consume or watch however many YouTube videos they like concurrently while creating TikTok videos and uploading them, all with a reliable connection. Personalised interactions to improve campus life. I'm going to actually take you through an example of some of the work that we've done with our university to really help deliver on that, and that also comes into the wayfinding element of it as well. And better in student engagement with smart digital tools and classrooms. I think the example of the transition to augmented reality and virtual reality is a prime example of how universities are looking at a better engagement with students. So rather than walking into a learning space, which is what they're calling them now, with some whiteboards, some TV screens, etc., being able to step into a rainforest or be able to dive to the Great Barrier Reef rather than going into a classroom, and using virtual reality to provide those experiences. From a faculty and administrative perspective, in Australia it is absolutely around attracting and retaining students. And to do that, there is an appreciation that not only does the course content and the opportunity for future employment, that needs to be absolutely top priority. Almost on par with that is the technology that is available at the university for the students to leverage. The ability to utilise analytics. So again, use the data, consume data that is just being generated by the terabit from the campus to make informed decisions about how to prioritise applications even. Where to put coffee machines, how to incorporate a greater, I suppose, collaboration with businesses, etc. Create IoT smart spaces that promote learning. And of course, we talk about delivering secure campus-to-campus with Wi-Fi and EduRoam. And EduRoam is everywhere in Australia, and I understand that it's also, of course, available across all universities in Indonesia as well. So just being able to make it very easy for a student who is studying in Jakarta to then use that same SSID and come and study at one of the Australian universities and vice versa. So being able to offer a global, be physically somewhere in the globe, but have the same virtual network experience. Now, underpinning all of these objectives that we spoke about, or even a university's journey towards those objectives, is to ensure that the infrastructure is available. And this is where we sort of come back to that sort of baseline, having connectivity that is pervasive, that it has the capacity and that is secure to be able to use that as your foundation and then build upon that. So a couple of the key things that I'm going to call out here. When we talk about IoT platform, think about being able to extend the access points capability to start looking at onboarding Zigbee devices. So when we talk about Zigbee devices, there could be remote door locking solutions. Again, it's something that makes life easier for the students. It's secure. They use their mobile phones. They unlock the doors. The doors then communicate via Zigbee to the access point, etc., etc. So being able to just have the flexibility to do that in the future without having to build separate IoT networks, that is really compelling. Built-in intelligence to prioritize applications, we've spoken about that. A couple that I did want to call out from this long list here. Wi-Fi 6. Now, Wi-Fi 6 offers a unique opportunity when we start to see the general availability of 5G. Now, I appreciate that Indonesia, like Australia, probably has a couple of pockets of 5G connectivity, and that's about it. But from a longer term planning perspective, when 5G comes and when it is readily available, the opportunity for campuses is to take a student who may be engaged with a conversation with a teacher via a webinar or video call, and they're coming in from the outside. So they're on the network. There's some capacity, higher throughput to be able to sustain. Student then comes onto the campus. Being able to extend that call or seamlessly transition that call onto the Wi-Fi network. So think of this case, using this Wi-Fi 6 technology, being able to use the Wi-Fi network as an on-ramp to 5G or as an off-ramp to 5G. So I'm coming into the campus, I then seamlessly transition onto the Wi-Fi network and away I go. What that does is it provides end-to-end coverage for that call. So when we talk about students' expectations, they don't expect to come into the campus and all of a sudden have their call dropped and then they have to reinitiate it. That is a poor user experience. So being able to have infrastructure that allows us to adopt this capability when we're ready. So the other aspect on Wi-Fi 6 is this air slice. So we talk about application prioritization, TikTok being the example app here. So we want to prioritize TikTok. So what we can do is using Wi-Fi 6 coupled with 5G, so there are dependencies on technologies here, to be able to prioritize TikTok on the Wi-Fi network and then also extend that prioritization or map that prioritization onto the cellular network with 5G. So they are the type of capabilities that this new technology offers. From an AirPass perspective, that's a seamless transition between cellular onto the Wi-Fi network. And WPA3 offers us the ability for those IoT devices to be able to give them unique PSK keys to be able to authenticate. So rather than have an SSID with a IoT PSK for all IoT devices, they can now be given unique keys to ensure or to help maintain their integrity and to ensure that only that device is authenticating to the network. So other elements around the infrastructure itself, again, we've spoken about the value that telemetry provides. So being able to access that valuable data via APIs and also give us insights into when particular segments of the network might be underperforming or particular custom applications might not be performing as expected. And this is using some of the capabilities that are built into the switching fabric. So I'm not going to go into a deep dive of those. I'd just like to use these as opportunities to call out some of the capabilities that we're talking to our university customers about and also the sort of trajectory that they're going on, but we can certainly have follow-up conversations to explore these in a little bit more detail. So once we have the infrastructure in place, we then start looking at some use cases where we talk about, okay, how do we ensure that the network is we have controls around who accesses what on the network while keeping the network appearing open. So I worked with a university and they had 4 or 5 levels of firewalls. It was just insane. So the moment that I wanted to, as a researcher, I might have wanted to access something from the business school, their firewall rules that needed to be changed, it was a complete mess. So we went through a project and consolidated a lot of those, and we opened up the network, and we started to use this concept of sort of role-based policy to assign appropriate access to resources and services across the network. And one of the key value adds of transitioning to something that is role-based is that it didn't matter whether the student was connecting in wirelessly or via the wired network. They would, depending on who they are, the type of device that they were using, their, I suppose, business, their school, their primary school, whether that be business, engineering, computer science, etc., determined what access they had on the network. Some of the other scenarios that are very much use case driven, this is a bit more technology, I think, being able to ensure that devices go to the AP that is best performing and have the capacity to support a number of concurrent bi-directional sessions as well. The concept that a university shuts down is no longer valid. University networks operate 24/7. So taking university networks offline to do upgrades, to do maintenance, really isn't an option anymore. So this is where a lot of universities, the fact that we can undertake hitless failovers between infrastructure, and that's both on the switching side and the wireless side, this really resonates with the universities because they're 24/7 operations, and the windows that they have for outages are very, very restricted. From a student's perspective, I think it was RMIT, they have around 20,000 new students coming on every year. So they need ways to just seamlessly onboard those students. They cannot be touching 40, 50, 60,000 devices, assuming 3 devices per student. So being able to automate student onboarding, but also to be able to cater for events and be able to do that in a manner that doesn't create a world of change control that needs to happen to create a new SSID and have that pushed out for a certain period of time. And as we've spoken about, streamlining operations. So one of the universities that's really taken this approach around use cases is James Cook University. So they have, I think it's around 22,000 students, and they've got 3 or 4 main campuses: Townsville, Cairns, Brisbane, and I think Gold Coast as well. And so what they wanted to do was they wanted to provide campus-wide enterprise quality Wi-Fi coverage for their students and faculty. And the reason for that is they wanted to encourage students to remain on the campus, because as you can appreciate, there's restaurants that are on the campus, cafes, there's bookstores that are there, libraries. So the more that students remain on campus, the more the more data the university can pick up about what the students are doing to determine how better to engage with them. So campus-wide connectivity, both indoors and outdoors, was a mandatory requirement for JCU. So they happened to be one of our first customers who took us, went down the path of what we term a mobility master, but that was that whole concept of being able to offer 24/7 network operations where the failovers were hitless. We kept the network operating during upgrades, and all of that was managed via the software. So they have also been able to streamline the effort and time that it takes them to support ad hoc events that require various forms of access. So according to JCU, they told us that it used to take them about a day to design a solution to support an event that might have been running for a few hours. And now they can have it all operational in less than an hour. So the other I suppose differentiating point with JCU is their IoT network. So the other aspect of the Wi-Fi, it's not just about providing connectivity for students. They have thousands of sensors deployed in the Great Barrier Reef, and they also have thousands of sensors that are deployed in the Daintree, which is one of the rainforests up in northern Queensland. And what they're doing is that these sensors monitor the health of the respective environments. So all of that data is then coming back to the core campuses for analysis. Another initiative that they were involved with that I think is really interesting is this whole concept of paddock to plate. So in Australia, many of the restaurants, in order to, I suppose, appeal to consumers' greater sensitivities around sustainability, where product has come from, there's a concept of tracking meat from the cow itself all the way to the plate. So you can, as a consumer, ensure that it was managed in a sustainable, environmentally friendly, and also a very humane way as well. So the outcome of all of these sensors is that the JCU wanted to ensure that they could deliver all of this data that was generated from the sensors to the researchers with minimal intervention. So that to do that, they pre-registered all of these devices in ClearPass. So remember, we spoke about that whole concept of something connects in, it gets profiled depending on what it is, it then has access to various areas of the network. They pre-profiled all of these IoT devices so that when researchers go and connect them into specific areas, whether that be in the Daintree, whether it be around the Great Barrier Reef, that they're already authenticated and for access to be able to start chanting to the campuses. So the future plans for James Cook University, they are looking to develop a new student services app that will be a combination of GPS and Bluetooth wayfinding, and the objective is to be able to track student attendance and also to push announcements. So if there is a particular event happening, that all of those announcements can be pushed to the students with the objective of improving the engagement with students. From the Aruba and JCU perspective, we're privileged that JCU really considers us a partner in their journey, and a testament to that is that we're currently working with them on beta trialling of some new technology that will really help them further streamline their operations and also expand their networks as well. So it's really about that partnership. It's certainly not that traditional vendor-customer agreement that tends to happen. So this, from JCU's perspective, the value of participating in this beta trial is that they get to, or they have the opportunity to influence the development work. So if there's particular use cases that we haven't thought of that they see the need for, then we can collaborate on those and determine if and how to incorporate them into the technology. So they're one of our long-standing partners and customers. And the other one who I have had a lot of involvement with, and that is RMIT. And you can see a sample of their app there. So they were really centred on delivering experiences for students, and there were a few pain points that we worked with them on solving. So just a bit of background. RMIT, it was a long-standing university. It was founded back in 1887, and it's recognised as one of Australia's leading technology-focused institutions. It has around 60,000 students, and it is huge. It within the CBD, so their main campus spans 150 buildings across the CBD, and they also have other campuses located in outer suburbs and even internationally. So I think you'd agree that the physical footprint of the university can make it really challenging for students to find their way around. So the situation or the issue that they were trying to resolve is that students kept getting lost, or they weren't making it to lectures or tutorials on time because they just didn't have an understanding of how to get from point A to point B across the CBD. So to combat this, we worked in partnership with them to install 5,000 beacons, so these are BLE beacons, across 6 libraries within the Victorian campuses. The Navigator app, sorry, we'll just go back, that you see here, allows students to easily find their way to the learning spaces, but it also provides alternate routes for students and staff who may have mobility issues or challenges. And what their plans are for this application, again, it's around building that engagement perspective, is really to deliver that airport experience. So the objective is that it interacts with the student's timetable. So I am in building 5, looking at my timetable, my next class is in building 70, and then have the app tell the student that that will be about a 10-minute walk. Or your next class is upon the campus, and it's going to be a drive the day. So giving that whole layout, you have to make it internal to incorporate that into the app. Is apps built into this and links to local food and beverage. So where can I go to a restaurant of a particular type in the CBD, being able to book rooms or book spaces, find parking, and also find books and services within the library. So in addition to that particular project, earlier on we partnered with RMIT to complete their digital transformation. And that was really to empower their students to learn either on campus, at home, at the beach, essentially wherever they like. Their primary objective was to deliver anytime, anywhere learning. And the infrastructure to support this initiative comprised of around 4,500 access points and 1,200 Aruba switches. So it was all Aruba. And the university infrastructure, as I said, they came from something that was very much locked down, was designed to be open and accessible to virtually anyone and allow students to remain connected as they made their way around the various classes and buildings located across the CBD. So if you're ever in Melbourne and you go to one of the RMIT buildings, you can, if you look at your phone, you'll see the RMIT SSID as you walk up and down or halfway across the CBD, just to make sure that students maintain coverage. And also from an EduRoam perspective, they have a lot of visiting students that will come in, they'll do some shorter courses with them and then leave again. So also do joint research with them. So being able to use EduRoam was another key priority for them to make sure that that SSID was available and for international students. So the onboarding process that was driven by ClearPass, so that students could seamlessly onboard their devices. They'd get 24 hours access, and essentially the network was, for all intensive purposes, open for them. But ClearPass provided that much needed visibility into who was accessing the network, when they were accessing the network, where they were, in case there were any further follow-ups that were required with that particular student or network issues. So just to keep moving along, this is a slide that depicts a particular technology, but what I want to do is actually talk about why a university is looking at this type of capability. So this situation is, and I can't say the university's name, where they are an existing Aruba university and they have an extensive MPLS network because they are a research-centric university, and their requirement was to extend layer 2 connectivity to the various researchers. Okay, so to do that, they standardized on MPLS. Now, MPLS is a very heavy technology for the LAN, and it requires a lot of expertise. It has its own set of protocols and routing capabilities that are also needed to support it. And in addition, the infrastructure also has to be able to manage MPLS as well. So we're actually in conversation with this university around transitioning from MPLS to what we term dynamic segmentation. So throughout our conversation today, I've spoken about the concept of roles. And when you connect to the network, depending on who you are, what device you're using, you'll then be allocated a role. So we're taking this one step further with this concept of dynamic segmentation, and that is that we will extend the role or that concept out to Wi-Fi or wired, it doesn't really matter, but that traffic is then pulled back to a stack or a cluster of gateways or controllers. Now, these gateways or controllers, being Aruba, they have stateful firewall capabilities. So with that in mind, we can then very granularly control who has access to what, both on the LAN side and also on the WAN side. So so if we think about the requirement is to allow researchers to connect to their very specific pieces of instruments or devices or machines at layer 2. So using this, being faculty, I can extend faculty, the concept of the faculty VLAN, anywhere in the network, and I can then, as a participant of as my role is faculty, I could be at building 1, I can be at building 7, I can be at building 25. And it does not matter, because of my role, my access to those services is always available no matter where I am in the network. So that is something that it really helps simplify the configuration of the network. It simplifies the management of the network, and also operationally as well. So this is just one example of where we're talking to a customer to replace very heavy, a very heavy technology footprint, such as MPLS, with something that offers that same functionality, because remember, the use case hasn't changed. It's just the way that we're delivering it has. So all traffic backhauled. This is a firewall. We determine who talks to who. So that is one, another, I suppose, use case around our technology within the university sector. The final one I introduced previously, and I just wanted to give you a little bit slightly different use cases here, because remember, we're looking at, okay, so what are the problems we're trying to solve, or what are the benefits that we're trying to add. So the concept of these sensors, as we spoke about before, they're doing continuous testing. Now, in K-12 education, the Department of New South Wales used these sensors to provide that sort of remote technician function, and also to provide what if. I've made a change to the network, has it improved the performance, not improved the performance, or has it stayed the same? From the universities, and this is where we're having conversations with universities who are not even Aruba customers. They don't have any Aruba infrastructure, okay, but they are very interested to understand how the network is performing for their students. So in this scenario, we would run these in high visibility places. So things like the accommodation. Okay, so where students are sleeping, where they're relaxing, what are the response times for TikTok in the accommodation, as an example. The other ones are around just high density areas, such as libraries, such as eating areas, if there are particular events that are happening, to ensure that the network is optimally configured and optimally performing for those students. So we were having a conversation with, as I said, a non-Aruba customer, no Aruba infrastructure, and they were actually deploying these at, so they have their network runs in places that they don't own. So they might have a small network running in a hospital. Okay, so they're measuring the availability of those applications and services in a network that they don't manage. And this gives them the ability to then, if there are issues, to present something that's quantifiable back to the owners of that network and work with them in order to optimize the delivery of the service or the application. They even have them at a train station because a number of students commute from outer-lying suburbs back into, or they have a campus in an outer-lying suburb, and they commute between the campuses. So just understanding what the performance is for those students who are accessing services that are back at the university campus or online from those public areas as well. So from the university's point of view, this is all about how do I quantifiably measure the experience for students when they're using the network and when they're using applications. So that's the real value add there. So just all this combined, being able to drive analytics and insights, the ability to extract that telemetry data from the network, integrate it with learning systems, and as we've seen with RMIT, to be able to solve real issues that students are facing. How do I get from point A to point B? We think it's very simple, but when you have such an expansive campus, it can be quite challenging. understanding where students are spending their time, being able to then put in services to support them, whether it is around optimizing building from air conditioning and lighting perspective, whether it is making sure that the cleaning rosters are changed to suit how those spaces are being used. So there is certainly a wealth of new or improvements that we can provide just from extracting the data from the network and analysing it. And from the budget perspective, optimising facility usage, as I've mentioned, and give the students the ability to do a lot of self-service. Find things for themselves. Where's the nearest kiosk? Where's the nearest ATM? Where's the nearest telephone, public telephone, if there's one on campus? Where are the emergency phones? All of those sorts of things to help the students' life as they're participating in their learning. So just in as we're starting to close now, the architecture that delivers all of this functionality that I have spoken about is designed to be really secure, simple and smart. And we've spoken about the connectivity here. The one that I haven't touched on is the wide area network. If you are interested in some of the capabilities that we have in place, we'll be more than happy to have a separate conversation with you. But really today's conversation was around sort of what we're doing from a campus perspective, wired and wireless. We looked at the value of analytics, how we can use security to give us that flexibility while giving us some sort of control with the onboarding of devices and use of roles, the use of location and the value that that's been able to provide students and also from a university to be able to improve the engagement with students, and how we've streamlined operations, and of course the value of APIs, being able to integrate the network elements with business applications, with GRE applications, and present a much broader and complete picture of the entire university as a campus. So just changing tact here, given where we are at the moment, I just wanted to touch on some of the initiatives that are happening from the education sector to support the continuous learning for students, Australian students, due to some of the restrictions with COVID-19. So as I said, from a K-12 perspective, it's really around ensuring that we can have or provide digital equity, so allow students or give students access to a laptop with a USB dongle to ensure that they can participate in the online learning. From a student's perspective, or from the teaching perspective, they're really focused on student engagement. How do we make sure that we maintain a connection with the students? And this is particularly important in the secondary education, because it's very easy for those students who are already sort of on the cusp of disengaging, given that they're not going to school, that there is an onus for them to take responsibility for their learning, they can very quickly drop out of the system. So there's a lot of effort being put into place to make sure that we keep students engaged. The other one is around student safety. And unfortunately, some homes in Australia are not the safest for students. Students have come to school to get some reprieve and to be in a very structured environment, which is not what they find at home. But also some of the considerations with using video conferencing, as I endeavoured to encourage my son's school to take up video conferencing because of the whole idea of student engagement. I was alerted, or reminded, I should say, of the fact that because you're seeing into the person's house, that we can't counter for grandpa or grandma who wants to walk around in a bikini or in their underwear or something like that, which might be quite acceptable for that particular household, but not for students to see. And of course, the other one is around the pivot, as I said, to 100% online learning. From a tertiary perspective, there's been a lot of attention around supporting international students. As I've said, the university sector or education is the fourth largest export in Australia. So looking at the universities in particular, how are they supporting international students? Some were giving them funding earlier on because there was a required 14 days lead time coming from China to Australia. You couldn't come directly from China into Australia. So some universities were funding students to spend 14 days in another country before coming into Australia. Now that they're here, our universities are looking at to ensure that students have enough food, they have accommodation, because they're working in industries which have essentially been shut down. So the other, I suppose, key area, and I think is it's really quite welcome to see, and that is the collaboration between universities and government. So the universities, as I've said, they've lost a lot of money because of the international students not coming. So the government has stepped in and said, okay, well, we've got a lot of people who are displaced at the moment from a workforce perspective. So in collaboration with the government, their universities have pivoted their degrees to offer 6-month very specific courses that do have a certification at the end of them. In national priority areas. So this is around health, it's around infrastructure, IT, technology, so research. So all of these areas that the government has decided that are very high priority for the country at the moment, offering subsidised courses with the hope to reskill a lot of the Australians whose current employment has been negatively impacted by COVID. And many of the university sectors, as you saw, they'd already started to pivot to online. So they were very much focused on, doesn't matter where you are, we want you to be able to access your learning. We want you to be able to engage. We want you to be able to collaborate. So the transition had already been made. There wasn't this mad rush from the university sector as we saw for some of the K-12 to adapt to online. And those that did want to continue with face-to-face, so I know local university in EME, they have changed their layout so that they can meet the social distancing requirements if face-to-face tuition is required, because there are some cases where the course or the class can't be delivered online. So just a few areas that I suppose changes, I should say, that have happened in the Australian education due to COVID-19. With a crystal ball and sort of my view on things, I think that we will see the ability to do a lot more online become the norm for the university sector. Whilst there were online capabilities there, it certainly wasn't the primary form of delivery. I think that will become almost on par with face-to-face for some of the campuses. And for K-12, it's really just that bringing all of the schools up to the next step as far as integrating digital elements into their learning. So I'd say that will become now the standard moving forward. From an Aruba perspective, what are we doing as an organisation to really support education? There's opportunities for universities to participate in Aruba Academy. So there is a recognition that the industries that you service for students that are coming through your organisations, that they are challenged to find engineers and students with the depth of IT skills that are needed to support their networks. So there is absolutely opportunities there to participate in Aruba training. We have network certification as well for your teams, for your teachers if they're interested, and also for students. And there is a developer community both within Indonesia and globally called Airheads. So this is a great resource if you're thinking about using Aruba, or you've got some equipment from us and you just want to chat with some peers about the best practices, a lot of our senior engineers spend a great deal of their time supporting the questions that come in from our customers and partners within the Airheads community. So that's always a great place for collaboration. And there was a question asked earlier, Jessica, about the ability to extend universities' networks. So within the Airheads community, we provided I think it was 4-hour training on how to actually implement those solutions. And that was just free for our Airheads customers and partners. And then, of course, there's always the opportunity to have some secure some equipment from us to support you within a school or within or to build a networking lab within your organisation. So from a corporate perspective, why Aruba? I'm hoping that throughout our conversation today that you walk away with the feeling that we are there as a partner, that we want to collaborate with you, we want to support you on your journey as you look at your strategic initiatives to see how we can help you achieve those within the time frame and the price points that you need. From a customer advisory perspective, this is one of the areas that JCU, the James Cook University, that they took up, and they have provided us with just some of the scenarios that they see happening within their organisation. So there's certainly the opportunity for you to participate in that as well. And as you saw with beta testing and working with our local team so that we can understand what your challenges are and then work together on a solution. And that may be an entire Aruba solution. It could be Aruba and third party. So we're certainly not of the belief that we can fix everything, but we're open to working with other vendors as well in order to bring the right outcomes. And from our own perspective internally, we are absolutely centred on really using data a lot more intelligently and to use that to work towards self-automation, self-optimization within the networks, and also take the knowledge that we have around wireless, which is extensive, and use that to show or I suppose visualize root causes and then what the fixes might be as well. So there's a lot of work there from Aruba. So with that, I thank you all for your time, and I will hand it over to Jessica if there's any questions.
Alisa, there are 2 questions from our customer, University.
Could you speak up, please, Jessica? I will just jump on a loop.
Hello?
Yes, yeah?
Yes. Can you see the chat box?
Yes, I can. I'll just quickly go through. Hang on a second. Quality of learning in the network. Hamid, would you mind just give me a little bit more around the question? I'm not quite sure on the ask here.
Do you want to ask the question?
Oh, multimedia. Okay. So you are correct, multimedia does consume quite a substantial amount of data. That's where it really becomes important to look at the capacity of the network. And as we spoke about, some of the newer technologies around Wi-Fi 6 in particular goes a great ways to addressing some of those requirements. The multi-user MIMO is one in particular that helps support multimedia, and also the orthogonal ODFMA. Sorry, I've forgotten the full name of the acronym. But essentially, those two technologies combined really allow us to optimize the delivery of traffic across the Wi-Fi. Essentially, we are utilizing all of the cycles, the time cycles, the RF cycles, to be able to efficiently transport traffic. So to your point, yes, multimedia does need some consideration, but an Aruba network would be I feel very confident that we would be able to tune it to be able to support those particular requirements. So when it comes to security from an Aruba device, first of all, the devices themselves, depending on how they're being used, let's just talk about it from a management perspective. The devices themselves have TPM chips on them. So they themselves authenticate so that they cannot be impersonated by any other devices. So that goes a long ways to ensuring the security of the device. And from the safeguard company and university personnel, that really comes down to some of the policies that are put in place. We can certainly have a much deeper conversation around that, but some of the technologies that I've spoken about, if we combine the use of ClearPass, also from the use of the firewall capabilities within the controllers, goes a ways to addressing that. We have adherence to a number of security standards as well, and I would leave that to the Indonesia team to have a follow-up conversation with you around that. How Aruba to increase learning quality. So we don't have a solution that specifically increases learning quality. What we do is we expose all of the telemetry that is coming from the infrastructure, and we would use that to highlight. So there's two approaches here. First of all, we expose all the telemetry so that can then be consumed into a business application that the university is using, and that in turn would pull data from other elements. This is sort of the path that the education department that I spoke about is taking, and it is not so much to increase learning quality, it is about the ability to track students who are starting to disengage from learning. And they look at various, so we can give, all right, when the student came onto the network, how long they're connected for, what applications they used from another service or another part of the campus. You would then correlate that to their timeliness. When did they attend the lessons? Have they been late? What are their grades? And all of these separate sources of data get combined to then build the business insights. So that business insights piece, which I think you're asking about, that's not something that we provide. We provide one source of data to contribute to that. The other angle to this whole AI ML discussion is, rather than having network operators try and find when there is an issue, or to have help desk report that users are saying that access to application XYZ is performing really poorly, starting to use the telemetry again that we gather from the infrastructure and work out if there are trends that we're seeing on the network. Now, today we expose those trends and we rate them. So if it's red, then that's going to be service impacting very soon. We suggest that you take some corrective action. If it's orange, it's to alert you to the fact that this is happening. You might want to watch it for a while. Moving forward, our objective is to then make changes to the infrastructure. That's a longer term strategy for us, but I just wanted to share that with you. So we identify that there's a trend happening. What do we need to do to either stop that trend or optimize it so that it's not service impacting? And I believe that there is an Aruba Central demo after me, so that is a good opportunity to see some of these capabilities that I've spoken about.
Thank you, Alisa. Thank you for sharing. Ada yang mau tanya lagi? Any questions, Pak? Bapak, Ibu? Udah ya? Okay, I think there is no more question, Elisa, from our customers. Thank you very much for sharing the education in Australia. I hope we can implement some of them to our University of Schools in Indonesia.
Thanks, Jessica. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. We'll connect soon.
Thank you. Okay, the next, I will present some Aruba Academy Express. Itu adalah kayak apa ya, Pak? Bapak Ibu mungkin bisa ke arah certification atau lab sih tentang Aruba. Sebentar, saya share screen-nya dulu. Udah kelihatan, Pak, screen-nya? Sorry, ya unmute kali ya. Udah kelihatan ya, Pak? Screen-nya?
Sudah kelihatan.
Teman-teman, oke, cara bikin ya. Ibu coba pakai yang instan on deh, gue lihat dulu. Nah, sekarang saya mau sharing sedikit tentang Aruba Academy Express. Academy Express ini kita persiapkan untuk tujuannya adalah agar anak-anak dari Indonesia itu lebih develop tentang teknologi dengan mengambil certification. Nah, salah satunya dengan Academy Express ini. Sedikit cerita tentang Aruba Academy. Ini adalah Gartner tahun 2019 bulan April. Bisa kita lihat bahwa Aruba berada di leader quadrant, tetap berdampingan dengan Cisco selama 14 tahun, Pak. Selain Gartner, juga ada Forrester dan juga IDC yang approve bahwa Aruba adalah salah satu leaders di wireless technology. Nah, misi dari kita punya Aruba Academy adalah, yang pastinya adalah shape future leaders di teknologi, terutama di Indonesia. Kita mau kontribusi ke education di Indonesia supaya murid-muridnya itu lebih terdevelop dan juga bisa outstanding dibandingkan murid-murid lainnya yang tidak mengambil certification ini. Nah, mungkin ada sedikit video.
Empat ya. Halo ya. Iya. Iya, tunggu lebih sebentar ini, sebentar. Ya. Iya, ternyata belum selesai loh yang pagi lagi sebentar kembali.
Suaranya nggak kedengeran ya tadi ya? What's wrong?
Dan suara di share videonya nggak kedengeran, Mbak?
Ya, nggak kedengeran.
Ya, nggak
Iya.
kedengeran suara Mbak Jess.
Ya udah, paling lanjut dulu aja deh. Nah, saya jelasin. Jadi Aruba kita punya certification namanya ACMX. Itu ACMX adalah salah satu yang value-nya paling tinggi, yang paling diakui lah untuk Wi-Fi certification. Itu ada datanya Pak, Bapak dan Ibu, certification ACMX itu yang punya Aruba. Itu data di global, kita poinnya sampai 177. Dibandingkan, ya itu kita bandingkan dengan beberapa certification lain lah ya, yang dimiliki oleh kompetitor. Nah, Aruba Academy Express sendiri ini adalah free program yang kita berikan kepada masing-masing universitas yang mau join. Jadi sebenarnya sudah ada beberapa universitas yang sudah sign sama kita untuk join ke Aruba Academy Program portal. Programnya ini akan diberikan ada 4 section, yaitu Mobility, Switching, Security, and Design. Tahun 2019 sampai 2020 yang sudah ready itu di fase 1 atau Mobility and Switching. Nah, ini adalah certification-nya yang dapat diambil dari associate, professional sampai dengan expert.
Cuma nggak bisa itu bro, toko
Apa, Pak?
nggak dipecahin,
Sorry Pak.
tutupatnya setiap hari.
Mbak Jessica, tolong yang speaker yang lain di mute aja semua.
Oke. Di-mute
Terus
aja ya.
kayaknya karena efek record suaranya Mbak Jessica jadi kayak tenggelam gitu.
Oh, karena saya nge-record ya, saya record.
Ya mungkin kalau tadi suaranya yang sebelumnya itu bagus, jernih. Terima kasih.
Oke Pak, kalau kayak gitu lanjut dulu aja deh Pak, sama dulu kali ya. Sam?
Ya,
Ya, boleh kali di demo dulu untuk Aruba Central. Kayaknya kalau recording terus nge-share juga nggak tahu, mungkin tadi tenggelam ya suaranya.
Ya. Halo, kedengaran suara saya?
Aman.
Kedengaran ya? Kedengaran, Jess?
Kedengeran.
Oke.
Ya,
Selamat
bagus
siang
suaranya.
semuanya. Gimana, Pak?
Saya mute dulu ya suaranya Pak.
Ya Mas Samuel bagus suaranya. Tadi kalau
ya.
Mbak Jessica yang tenggelam suaranya mungkin karena efek record.
Karena mungkin recording kali ya? Oh ya. Oke. Selamat siang semuanya. Perkenalkan saya Samuel Parlindungan Ulises. Saya Sistem Engineer Aruba yang akan bertugas untuk education. Jadi mungkin belum pernah ketemu saya atau udah ada pernah ketemu saya mungkin waktu dulu di mana ya? Di Malang ya. Malang waktu dulu pernah. Mungkin ada yang pernah ketemu saya. Jadi salam kenal dulu. Ya, ini saya akan labkan soal Aruba Central ya. Jadi ini saya udah siapin tiga laptop. Saya lihat sini, ini laptop pertama OS-nya kali Linux. Ini laptop kedua, ini Windows. Dan laptop 3 ya ini laptop kantor buat koneksi kita hari ini. Oke. Jadi saya share screen dulu. Bentar ya. Kelihatan screen-nya? Bentar, nggak kelihatan ya?
Ya, kelihatan bagus.
Ya, Aruba Central demo ya. Ini agak susah sih soalnya satu pakai handphone, satu lagi pakai laptop nih joinnya. Ya, biar enak untuk melihat demonya. Jadi saya akan demokan Aruba Central. Tadi udah pada tahu Aruba Central. Jadi kita ngendaliin akses point kita yang ada di lokal atau instance point yang berdiri sendiri gitu. kita kendalikan dari cloud. Jadi bapak-bapak tidak perlu lagi, mungkin tidak perlu pakai menggunakan mobility controller, bapak-bapak juga tidak perlu lagi on-site gitu. Jadi cukup bisa kendaliin dari rumah. Dan ini penting banget nih untuk WFH ini kan. Jadi kita bisa tahu nih kondisi akses point sekarang kita di universitas seperti apa. Jadi yang saya akan demokan tuh gimana sih cara registrasinya akses point ini. Lalu yang kedua, cara kita ID, SID sama poinnya. Baik kita personal maupun guest. Personal biasanya untuk lokal ya, untuk mahasiswa. Kalau guest biasanya kita mungkin ada aja orang tua murid atau ya orang tua lah datang gitu, nggak terdaftar kan di sistem kita kan. Kita bisa kasih dia aktif portal guest. Jadi dia bisa akses hanya yang bisa diberikan pada dia aja. Kadang-kadang dia hanya bisa diakses untuk internet doang gitu. Biasanya bapak-bapak udah tahu ini mungkin di hotel ya. Di hotel biasanya kita login, nggak masukin username password, tapi langsung pop-up browser. Pop-up browser di mana kita akan masukkan registrasi gitu. Nanti saya akan registrasi email di sini. Jadi kita cukup masukin email, nanti akan ada kode masuk ke email kita masukin kode email kita, lalu kita bisa join ke internet. Jadi kita join ke akses point itu. Lalu yang terakhir nih monitoring dan report. Sampai sini kira-kira ada yang mau ditanyain dulu?
Oke, lanjut.
Oke ya. Oke, jadi pertama, nah untuk cara registrasi akses point-nya itu ada dua. Kita bisa direct registration di central. Jadi caranya masukin serial number sama MAC address. Kita masukin, jebret, udah langsung register tuh instant access point-nya. Atau cara kedua, kita pakai mobile application. Cara kedua ini kenapa penting? Karena katakanlah Bapak misalnya di site gitu kan, di site di salah satu gedung di kampus gitu. Ada misalnya katakanlah ada 20 site atau 200 site lah kita bilang ya. 200 gedung misalnya katakanlah. Ini yang universitas paling gede banget lah mungkin ya, sekolah atau di mana gitu kan. Nah, kita sangat susah kalau misalnya kita harus masukin serial number MAC address satu-satu. Gimana caranya kalau misalnya kita minta tolong orang yang ada di site tersebut hanya untuk cukup barcode app scanner aja. Barcode aja, terus udah langsung join access point-nya ke cloud. Kita kontrol dari cloud. Jadi sebenarnya kerjaan tim IT jadi lebih slow lah. Kita tuh nggak harus ada di site untuk kerja sesuatu. Itu fungsinya cloud sebenarnya. Kita ngontrol sesuatu yang kita lihat dari sesuatu yang tidak kita lihat. Nah, agak susah ya kalimatnya. Jadi nanti saya akan coba demonstrasikan gimana caranya baik dua cara ini, direct registration maupun mobile application. Oh ya, access point yang bisa diregister ke cloud itu adalah access point yang instant access point. Jadi ada dua jenis nih, ada access point yang harus dikontrol mobility controller, ada access point yang instan. Instan tuh jadi dia udah berdiri sendiri, dia nggak butuh controller. Kan nanti misalnya kita udah punya 100 point berdiri sendiri semua, kan kita ribet nih untuk maintain-nya, untuk manage-nya satu persatu. Katakanlah kita mau nambah SSID di satu site satu, kita lompat dulu ke site 1, terus kita mau nambah SSID di site 2, lompat dulu ke site 2. Akan jauh lebih baik jika access point ini semuanya terkontrol di satu tempat yang sama, which is di cloud. Oke. Berikutnya nanti saya akan coba, nanti yang seru di sini, SSID guest, tadi yang saya bilang untuk orang-orang yang tidak terdaftar di dalam jaringan kampus. Katakanlah misalnya orang tua murid, atau siapa aja lah, tamu lah, makanya disebutnya guest, SSID guest. Jadi nanti ada internal captive portal, mungkin ini tidak perlu yang internal captive portal, saya akan jelasin yang cloud guest. Cloud guest ini nanti kita bisa login dengan menggunakan email kita. Email kita register, habis itu nanti akan masuk kode ke email. Cukup kita masukin kode email itu ke portal tadi, kita bisa login ke dalam access point. Lalu ada SSID personal, nanti di personal ini saya akan coba demoin gimana kalau non-restricted. Non-restricted ini artinya adalah user itu tidak ada pembatasan. Go all the way. Jadi semua bisa akses apa aja. Ada role based, jadi role tertentu hanya bisa akses hal tertentu. Katakanlah ada user, misalnya Samuel nih, dia nggak boleh akses YouTube. Atau biasanya kalau mungkin case-case di customer, case-case di tempat education adalah banyak yang komplain kalau YouTube di-block. Padahal kita tuh mau jaga bandwidth sebenarnya. Gimana caranya kita jaga bandwidth kalau banyak komplain kalau YouTube di-block. Padahal YouTube ini yang generate traffic gede banget kan. Nah, kita bisa atur di nanti application throttling. Jadi kita lambatin aja YouTube-nya. Jadi user tuh nggak kerasa, dikira kenapa dia lambat. Ya udah oke dah. Udah masih jadi akses tapi lambat. Tapi sebenarnya kita jadi hemat bandwidth kita. Lalu ada network base, jadi satu network itu akan dikasih rule yang sama. Jadi ada 3 jenis nanti SSD personal. Sebenarnya ada SSD yang ketiga, tadi ada yang mention 802X, itu SSD Enterprise bisa dipakai untuk 802X. Itu SSD Enterprise. Kalau Enterprise ini sebenarnya lebih cocok dipakai untuk mahasiswa sebenarnya. Mahasiswa biasanya kalau boleh tahu Bapak, mahasiswa diregis ke Active Directory atau semacam radius, begitu nggak ya? Kalau boleh tahu, halo?
Iya, kalau saya di sekolah sih semua siswa masuk dalam radius, Mas. Jadi login pakai nomor siswa dan dia punya password sendiri.
Benar, ya. Itu nanti kita sebenarnya bisa atur itu, tapi mungkin karena keterbatasan lab dan keterbatasan waktu, mungkin nggak akan go deep ke situ. Jadi nanti akan saya coba buat dengan local user aja, gitu. Jadi seolah-olah servernya radiusnya itu ada di dalam cloud ini, gitu. Sebenarnya nanti bisa join juga, gitu, dengan server radius yang Bapak punya, gitu. Meskipun ini ada di cloud, kontrolnya, gitu. Yang perlu lagi, nah ini nanti use cases-nya, use case yang saya bawakan, ada application control URL, nanti ada blok semua, ada application throttling kalau sempat, nanti ada role base, ini juga use cases, nanti akan saya coba bawakan. Ya, ini maksudnya thank-nya bukan untuk selesai, belum kita mulai demonya nih. Jadi ini baru ini aja, pengenalan demonya aja. Jadi kita mulai aja. Pertama kita akan coba regis access point-nya. Nah, ini Aruba Central. Buka langsung join sini. Ini adalah tampilan Aruba Central. Oke, sebelum saya login dulu berarti. Pas login dulu ya. Jadi Bapak punya loginnya dulu. Nanti ada caranya untuk dapat loginnya. Sementara saya ini pakai login saya dulu ya. Ini login dulu. Nanti dari login ini masuk ke SSO saya. Ini punya SPI, punya untuk sistem engineer sebentar ya. SSO single sign on. Tadi habis hujan nih, jadi agak lambat internetnya. Ya. Ini login. Ya, ini login kantor nih. Tolong jangan di... ya. Coba dulu bentar. Salah lagi passwordnya. Ya, untunglah ternyata benar passwordnya. Oke. Bentar. Nah, ini adalah tampilan account home-nya. Saya akan di sini akan jelaskan untuk cara registrasinya. Pertama kita ke device inventory. Nah, ini udah diregister sebenarnya. Ini caranya cuma cukup add device, masukkan serial number dan MAC address. Cuma bayangin kalau misalnya ada banyak banget nih access point-nya gitu kan. Kan ribet tuh kita masukin satu-satu. Jauh lebih baik kalau kita menggunakan sebentar ya. Menggunakan aplikasi di handphone. Bapak-bapak bisa bentar ya. Ini saya share. Nah, bentar. Ini saya share screen dulu handphone saya. Jadi ini ada aplikasi namanya Aruba Central. Ini. Nah, ini langsung keluar barcode scannernya. Kita langsung aja menuju ke access point-nya. Sorry, kenapa kan ya? Bentar ya.
Ada barcode sih di belakang.
Nah, ini sorry, tadi lagi ini. Oke, plus itu kelihatan ya. Ini di plus barcode scanner. Nah, ini kita lihat ada barcode-nya nih kan. Ada serial number, ada MAC address. Kita lihat serial number, kita catch. Akan getar. Lama ya. Sebentar ya. Oke. Nah, device already edit. Nah, ini karena device-nya udah saya edit, jadi udah ditambahin, jadi dia nggak Bisa nanti saya keluarin dulu source-nya baru saya masukin. Jadi ini sebenarnya karena device udah ditambah aja jadi nggak bisa. Jadi caranya tuh kayak gitu. Caranya kita tinggal scan aja, nanti langsung masuk ke dalam.
Itu semua access point atau gimana?
Ya, instant access point Pak, yang instan.
Jadi kayak TP link, D-link itu ya?
Oh enggak, ini yang di Aruba dong Pak. Oke, itu tadi caranya kayak gitu kalau mau register pakai handphone gitu, pakai mobile app. Nah langsung aja kita mulai ke ntar saya share screen-nya, saya matiin dulu, bahaya nih. Stop share. Oke, sampai sini ada yang mau ditanya dulu? Ntar. Ada yang nanya?
Ada Pak Gigi. Ya.
Pak Gigi gimana Pak? Oh dari Lampung, oh ya sangat Pak. Jim Giovedi dong Pak. Jim Giovedi tahu Pak? Ya Pak, silakan Pak. Ya. Oke. Sebenarnya, oke. Ya. Oke Pak. Jadi ya pertanyaan bagus sebenarnya Pak. Jadi itulah fungsinya kenapa kita masih tetap menjual yang on premise juga gitu. Karena ini cocoknya untuk yang instan AP, access point yang berdiri sendiri gitu. Misalnya di satu site di apa sih satelit lah, di gunung-gunung kecil di mana dia access point berdiri sendiri, itu yang kita register ke cloud. Kalau access point yang besar-besar yang ada di pusat gitu, itu tetap ke controller. Makanya itu ada dua jenis access point Pak. Halo Pak.
Boleh nanya Pak?
Ya, siapa ya? Iya.
Pak, nanya.
Oke Pak, ya boleh Pak. Pak siapa tadi Pak?
Kalau sudah di Daniel.
Pak Daniel, ya Pak.
Kalau sudah diregister di cloud itu apa akses point-nya sudah bisa diakses dari luar ya? Misalnya dari rumah. Sudah bisa gitu ya. Jadi internetnya
Ya,
bisa kita lewat wifi point di
benar,
ya,
Pak, benar,
dari
Pak.
yang sudah disetting di kantor. Oh iya.
Iya.
Terima kasih Pak.
Ya, asal Bapak ada internet sih Pak. Ya, asal ada internet.
Ya, ada kuota internet di mobile. Jadi begitu mengakses pertamanya itu dari mobile, dari wifi di kantor itu akan connect ya. Jadi
Ya, dari mana aja Pak. Asal Bapak bisa internet, Bapak bisa akses point itu, bisa kontrol point. Nanti saya akan show gimana caranya bikin SSID maksudnya adalah nama access point. Lalu gimana caranya nanti komputer di rumah saya ini bisa connect ke SSID yang udah terdaftar gitu.
Ya.
Jadi akan saya coba ya ketemu aja ya.
Tutorialnya dibagi ya.
Gimana Pak Natal?
Tutorialnya bisa dibagi nanti ya.
Bisa nanti Jess gitu. Dan kita lagi bikin ininya ya apa? Videonya ya sebenarnya ya Jess ya.
Beli produknya Pak, dapat manualnya.
Siap.
Bener tuh Pak, itu beli aja Pak, bener.
Oke, Mas Samuel, saya mau tanya boleh?
Pak ya? Boleh.
Oke, saya kapan sekitar berapa bulan yang lalu kan pernah juga nyoba Aruba yang waktu ada pelatihan di Cyber Network di Bali. Perkenalkan saya Hadi di Bali. Mungkin ada teman saya juga di sini, ada Pak Abiong. Saya pernah nyoba itu kan akses point-nya itu kalau kita hidupkan bareng-bareng kan bermasalah dia karena harus satu dihidupkan terus jadikan controller gitu.
Oh, yang instan ya Pak ya?
Ya, yang instan. Itu kan terus dia nyeken teman-teman yang lain untuk diadopsi.
diadopsi.
Apakah itu yang instan seperti itu, apakah juga dalam artian bisa dimasukkan dalam controllernya yang cloud ya?
Ya bisa Pak, bisa. Jawabannya bisa Pak. Bahkan kita register nanti yang isinya aja virtual controller, kita register itu aja, nanti yang teman-temannya itu langsung join juga.
Nah, sebenarnya dari hal itu kan beberapa saya baca-baca di referensi di internet itu sekarang udah ada Aruba yang memang produknya yang low cost gitu. Apakah yang low cost itu juga bisa gini cloud ya?
Yang bisa di manage sama Aruba Central ada yang depannya ada I Pak, IAP.
Oh, IAP.
Iya IAP. Jadi yang biasanya yang kecil itu IAP sih. Yang besar juga ada yang IAP. Kemarin saya cobain ada kampus AP itu nggak bisa. Harus yang IAP. Nah,
dia harus yang budgetnya lumayan.
Halo Pak, ini Pak dari
halo Pak Karel ya.
Oke, terima kasih Mas Aman.
Ya Karel Pak, ini Bapak waktu itu ikut workshop yang ABG yang di Bali, benar Pak ya?
Iya benar Pak.
Oke. Itu sebenarnya adalah produk instant on, di mana dia itu cloud-nya adalah berdasarkan web apps Pak, pakai apps. Jadi kalau yang Pak Samuel demokan tadi itu adalah Aruba yang model instant access point. Jadi yang model IAP. Kalau yang kemarin kita ngomong instant on Pak, beda.
Oh ya, maksud saya kalau kan ada beberapa juga yang teman saya lihat punya barang itu. Kalau semuanya itu tetap bisa cloud berarti kan gitu pertanyaannya.
Jadi kalau sekarang kita sudah ganti instant access point-nya menjadi unified AP. Jadi UAP nanti ke depannya Pak. Jadi kalau sebelumnya Aruba banyak sekali tipenya, ada yang instant access point, ada yang access point. Nah, kemudian ada instant on. Nanti kita akan lebih simpulkan lagi, ada instant on, kemudian ada UAP. Nah, UAP ini sendiri adalah suatu produk access point yang dimana di dalamnya bisa 3 fungsi. Yaitu pertama dia bisa instant access point, ada virtual controller dalamnya Pak. Yang kedua dia bisa berfungsi sebagai access point, jadi Bapak perlu wireless controller appliance terpisah. Yang ketiga adalah bisa cloud. Jadi dua produknya yang akan lebih simple nanti.
Komplit berarti ya?
Ya, komplit Pak. Ya. Mau yang terjangkau ataupun yang murah meriah juga ada Pak.
Silakan Pak.
Siap, itu yang
Karel nanti Pak.
Ya, karena kami di sekolah kan, saya kan di SMK, jadi butuh alat dalam artian juga untuk kita pelajari dan memang untuk kita share ke siswa gitu. Walaupun perangkat yang kami pasang sekarang itu perangkat yang ada depannya ubi-ubi itu.
Oh iya.
Ya, tapi memang mudah-mudahan kita bisa ke depan adopsi yang Aruba untuk paling tidak siswa tahu yang kelas yang bisnis ke atas itu, biar dia juga tahu seperti itu. Terima kasih.
Oke Pak, lanjut ya Pak ya.
Siap, silakan dilanjut.
Jam 3:30 ya Pak. Aruba jam 5 nih Pak. Canda Pak. Oke, saya mulai aja share screen saya untuk yang kita mau buat SSID misalnya. Ini device-nya tadi, sebentar belum kelihatan ya. Nah, ini kita nanti caranya ke sini dulu. Count home, balik lagi ke count home, masuk ke network operation. Oh ya, maaf. Sebelumnya, sorry. Sebelumnya yang perlu ini karena udah saya config sih. Sebelumnya yang perlu dilakukan adalah kita subscribe license-nya dulu. Jadi license-nya harus dibinding ke access point tersebut. Itu ada di subscription assignment. Nah, ini nanti kita subscribe dulu access point ini. Harus yes dia. Ini saya udah lakukan sih. Lalu kita bisa subscribe, kita bisa milih mau license apa aja. Kalau clarity ini untuk kita tahu network failure gitu-gitu. Jadi untuk tahu, namanya juga clarity kan, penjelasan gitu, lebih jelas. Jadi kita bisa tahu kondisi existing dari traffic. Itu kalau kita subscribe clarity. Cloud guest ini untuk tadi guest. Cloud guest to guest. Jadi nanti ada ya. Terus yang presence analytics ini untuk lalu lalang orang itu bisa dianalisis juga. Lalu UCC untuk voice, untuk telepon, video call dan sebagainya. Ini pada ini. Oke. Ini license-nya. Nah, lanjut ke kita langsung aja, waktunya mungkin udah nanti network operation. Kita di network operation ini kita gimana cara bikin SSID-nya ya. Ini putar dulu ya. Kenapa nih? Ada nanya? Oh, nanti ya. Oke. Jadi cara bikinnya ke device. Pertama kali itu kita bikin grup dulu sebenarnya. Kita grouping dulu. Ini karena saya udah buat, jadi bentar. Kita bikin grup dulu, all device di sini. Kita main di organization. Kenapa butuh grup? Karena mungkin kita grouping ke access point yang setipe gitu. Access point setipe ini akan mendapatkan SSID yang sama, akan mendapatkan policy yang sama. Nah, kita grouping dulu. Saya bikin grupnya namanya IAP-SAM. Kebetulan saya hanya punya satu access point, jadi satu grup ini isinya satu access point. Sebenarnya bisa banyak. Oke, kita coba masuk ke device sini. Nah, ini kita masuk dulu ke grupnya tadi yang saya buat namanya IAP-SAM. Kalau masuk device, lalu kita ke ini agak lambat. Ini agak lambat nih, maaf. Nah, ini poinnya tadi udah register. Lambat internet ya. Ini summary-nya, sorry. Device, sorry. Nah, ini kita ke show advance. Nah, ini ada show advance. Lalu kita ke WLAN. WLAN ini kita buat SSID-nya. Kita buat akses WLAN yang akan kita akses. Nah, ini saya udah buat banyak sebenarnya. Mungkin saya membuat satu dulu contohnya untuk personal. Misalnya kita katakan namanya personal SAM lah. Advanced setting ini bisa banyak sebenarnya kita lakukan di sini, tapi untuk sementara ini menghemat waktu juga, kita default dulu aja. Next, pilihannya saya pilih sesuai dengan eksternal DHCP server assign yang udah ada di home saya nih. Lalu next, security, ini personal. Kita bisa pilih WPA3, tapi kebetulan instan access point saya nggak support WPA3, jadi kita WPA2 aja. Passphrase-nya misalnya kita kasih misalnya Arsenal 123. Next. Nah, ini tadi saya bilang bisa unrestricted, network based, sama role based. Untuk sementara kita coba unrestricted aja, kita bypass semua. Next. Nah, ini udah personal SAM. Jadi bangun. Finish. Oke. Ini cara buat access point-nya. Nah, personal SAM is configured successfully. Oke. Udah dibangun personal SAM, unrestricted. Kita coba stop share. Nah, kita coba lihat di sini. Windows saya. Kita lihat ada nggak personal SAM? Ada nih personal SAM. Kelihatan ya? Udah kelihatan ya? Personal SAM. Nggak kelihatan. Ada di sini pokoknya. Nah, connect. Kita masukin passwordnya. Sebentar, maaf. Nah, ini udah connect. Kelihatan ya? Udah connect nih personal SAM. Kita coba akses misalnya ya, bisa ya, kita akses YouTube nih. Bisa. Ini kita masih buka semua, jadi open all. Misalnya saya ambil contoh case, misalnya, nah ini sih bisa dilihat di sini, sorry. Sebelumnya saya dari sini di klien. Agak lambat. Nah, ini tadi belum, ya agak lama sih memang karena dan kualitas internet juga sebenarnya. Oke, jadi itu tadi caranya udah login. Nah, sekarang mungkin kita ke fase berikutnya adalah guess ya, mungkin ya. Gimana dengan akses point, atau sebelum guess mungkin kita coba batasin dulu. Tadi ada pertanyaan nih, menarik nih. Pertanyaan apa tadi ya? Maksudnya gimana ya? Ini, halo Pak Parulian, Pak, kalau mau di grup kuncinya gimana, kita nggak kasih sama TikTok. Itu bisa sebenarnya. Oke, jadi contoh, sorry. Gimana? Oke, tadi udah saya contohin gimana bikin akses point yang full true lah, semuanya full true, semuanya masuk gitu. Gimana kalau kita bikin akses point yang kita batasin? Katakanlah saya mau batasin Samuel ini user atau semua orang tuh nggak bisa akses YouTube misalnya. Kita bisa dilakukan dengan cara seperti ini. Go advance, bilang, ini, oke, kita bisa misalnya tadi masih pakai yang kita pakai personal sum, kita bisa edit di sini. Nah, edit tanda pensil, lalu kita masuk ke akses. Nah, kita bisa atur nih, misalnya network base. Untuk network base, kita bisa add rule, lalu masukin application-nya. Katakanlah misalnya kategori application, misalnya YouTube. Kita action, kita deny misalnya. Oke. Deny, save setting. Stop share. Lalu kita lihat nih. Mungkin masih bisa nih sekarang. Masih bisa, kenapa masih bisa? Karena ini catching. Jadi kita coba misalnya, aduh. Ya. Nah, kita lihat nih dia muter-muter aja nih yang web Firefox. Karena tadi kalau yang tadi masih catching dia masih bisa. Jadi kalau udah nggak catching lagi nih nggak bisa nih. Ini muter-muter aja YouTube-nya. Nah, mungkin kita mau batasin, misalnya katakanlah bandwidth-nya mau kita batasin. Bentar, gimana tadi? Nah, kita mau batasin misalnya bandwidth-nya nih. Tadi di personal SEM tadi, kita bisa atur di, maaf. Aduh. Hilang. Bisa dua-duanya Pak, bisa per user, bisa gelondongan. Nah, saya akan contohkan ini yang gelondongan. Maaf. Kalau saya yang bawah nih, kalau lihat. Misalnya ini yang gelondongan nih Pak. Misalnya, nah, network base ini berarti satu network kena. Kalau role base kita akan bagi per role. Nanti akan saya contohkan. Nah, misalnya nih di YouTube kita ganti, jangan di-deny. Katakan usernya nanti komplain nih, kok di-deny YouTube-nya. Nah, supaya dia nggak kerasa, gimana caranya adalah dengan kita action allow, tapi application totaling. Nah, ini bisa atur nih. Kita mau berapa ya? 20. Dan 20. Oke, kita lihat. Kita lihat impact-nya ya. Cuma dapat 20 kbps. Kecil banget nih waktu zaman saya masih Telkomnet instan nih. Oke, kita coba YouTube. Ini kayaknya masih kenceng karena, masih askin. Udah YouTube. Muter-muter nih. Seharusnya kembali 20 kbps kekecilan kayaknya. Nah, buka kan, tapi lambat banget. Lambat banget tuh, buka. E-nya kurang 1, yo, U. Jadi kita bisa totaling itu satu network gitu kena semua. Ini lambat banget nih, 20 kbps soalnya. Ya, kita lihat lambat banget. User jadi nanti kerasa, aduh buka YouTube lambat, buka yang lain aja gitu. Jadi buka yang positif gitu, misalnya LinkedIn atau buka apa kayak gitu, yang positif lah. Jadi, yang lambat, yang streaming kita lambatin aja gitu. Itu bisa pada menghemat bandwidth. Lambat banget nih. Oke. Sampai sini ada yang mau ditanya dulu, Pak? Banyak nih kayak yang mau nanya dulu. Udah dijawab ada ini ya? Rasa lambat banget. Ya, gimana Pak? Gimana Pak? Pak Gigi, Pak coba Gigi ya? Controller existing bisa upgrade. Bapak udah ada controller existing ya? Mau dengan fitur bisa kontrol kayak gini. Bapak butuh license at RFC, apa FCC, WebCC sama test license sih untuk firewall-nya juga. Tapi butuh license tambahan tadi itu Pak yang saya mention tadi. Bisa, bisa. Ya mungkin belum ada PF-nya ya Pak ya. Dan ini balik nih. Ada license
ya baik Pak, apa kabar Pak? Aduh, ya lama nggak kesana Pak.
Baru Pak Denny pernah kesana Pak?
Pernah. Urusan ya Pak Gigi ya sekarang ya.
Sehat kan? Udah lanjut ya. Pak Denny.
Ya license PF firewall sama kalau mau content filtering di WebCC juga Pak. Content filtering. Ya. Iya Pak.
Bos mantap. Thank you Pak. Oke, terus tadi sama mana ya? Udah tadi ini mungkin kita lapin berikutnya dengan guest aja ya. Mungkin kita untuk guest. Sorry ini kelihatan. Oh ya deh. Oke, Wilan. Nah, kalau untuk guest kita pertama kali itu bisa kita bikin di guest access space page nih. Saya udah bikin sih, tapi mungkin untuk demi barang-barang juga kita bikin aja coba. Nah, name-nya misalnya katakanlah guest, tamu misalnya kita bilang ya, tamu email misalnya. Email, oke. Ya apa aja sih namanya ini terserah standar bapak-bapak sih. Nah, kita masuk ke authenticated. Nah, ini sebenarnya bisa social login, bisa pakai Facebook, bisa pakai Twitter, bisa Google, LinkedIn. Cuma bapak butuh API key-nya. Itu ada caranya sih, nanti saya kasih lihatnya. Tapi untuk sementara saya akan mention gimana kalau menggunakan self registration. Jadi nanti cukup email base, nanti ini bisa verifikasi kalau pakai send verification link atau nggak usah. Saya sih nggak usah aja. Nanti kita cukup kasih kirim email kita itu apa, kita masukin, lalu dia akan masukin kode ke email kita. Kode itu kita masukin supaya kita bisa login. Ini default aja, ini banyak sebenarnya bisa dituning, cuma waktunya mungkin nggak cukup nih kalau hari ini kita bahas semua. So next, nah ini splash page-nya. Ini kalau paham bahasa mesinnya warna, background color, FFF ini apa? Nah ini bisa diatur sih. Nah bisa atur nih warna apa yang kita mau. Habis itu kita juga bisa upload background image, logo gitu. Common condition juga bisa diatur juga, add settings dia jika mau. Banyak sih yang bisa di fine tune. Next. Nah ini kita fine tune finish. Ini guest access-nya. Ini cuma template untuk guest-nya. Kita belum buat SSID guest-nya. Ya lama banget. Oke, tadi namanya adalah circle terminal ya. Terminal. Nah kita buat lagi di tempat tadi device. Steering. So advance, VLAN. Oke, kita buat aja SSID-nya misalnya Tamu Sam, misalnya Tamu Samuel. Gitu ya. Bilang kita samain aja nih, kita bisa utak-atik, tapi saya nggak terlalu ini untuk katanya biar jadi assisting aja. Security, kita kasih kapit portal. Nah, kita pilih yang ini adalah cloud guest. Kalau internal nanti tuh biasanya nggak pakai login. Pass through aja. Habis itu default kapit portal. Nah, ini tadi kita masukin yang tamu email. Encryption bisa kita pilih kalau kita mau masukin, tapi better nggak usah, biar meminimalisir user interaction gitu ya, user effort gitu. Advanced setting bisa banyak nih, tapi kita tinggalkan default dulu aja. Nah, ini bisa diatur juga sebenarnya, tapi saya coba unrestricted dulu aja. Kita mau Samuel, finish. Simple sih bikinnya. Yang saya suka dari Central ini adalah sifatnya yang sequence. Jadi kita tuh kayak wizard bikinnya. Jadi ada beberapa, saya nggak usah sebut merek, tuh kadang kita harus bikin A, habis itu yang A-nya poin A-nya harus dimasukin ke B gitu. Jadi bunyinya loncat-loncat gitu. Kalau ini bunyinya tadi sudah dilihat sendiri sequence sih, jadi mengalir gitu. Ya ini langsung aja. Ini karena kasihan juga laptop saya yang satu lagi ini nggak dipakai. Nah, biar kita coba dulu. Bentar. Kita coba pakai Linux, misalnya. Passwordnya apa ya? Nah ini kita lihat, ya kan? Nah saat kita mau akses ke nah tadi namanya adalah Tamu Samuel ya. Udah kelihatan ya? Kelihatan kan? Nah ya, Tamu Samuel, belum kelihatan ya. Nah kita langsung login nih. Tapi ketika kita akses misalnya ke detik, kita di redirect ke cloud guest. Nah di sini kita masukin register. Kita nggak punya password. Nah email addressnya, misalnya email address saya arsenatik. Kelihatan ya? Udah kelihatan ya? @gmail.com. Register. Kita klik register. Nah, oh sorry, saya udah register soalnya, jadi saya nggak butuh lagi. Misalnya kita coba. Nanti tuh kalau misalnya belum register, dia akan masukin kode dulu. Saya udah register email saya. Coba yang email lain ya. Misalnya, coba. Ada yang punya email, misalnya mau coba?
Pakai saya punya aja.
Saya coba dulu satu lagi, Pak. Coba. Ya, kenapa bisa? Ini udah bisa sih, karena tadi udah login. Coba ya, coba di sini aja. Sorry. Misalnya connect, ini sama connect, langsung register. Coba register tadi pakai. Sebentar ya. Oh maaf, saya tadi belum masukin verification require, sorry. Ini aturan verification require. Sorry. Saya setting coba. Coba ini. Tadi karena nggak ada verification require, jadi cukup masukin email aja. Langsung masuk. Ya coba. Ini Kapten Sam. Misalnya email saya nih, tolong jangan di hack ya. Total.com, register. Nah, dia minta verification code. Saya buka dulu di HP saya lagi dipakai. Bentar saya buka dulu. Nah, ini udah muncul. Masukin kode verification-nya adalah 724